Alrighty. Hey folks, Dennis here with Las Vegas Worm Farm and Living Soul Community. Most people think worm castings are just a natural fertilizer, and that's exactly why your soils fail. There's a lot of assumptions that go into worm castings and them, how to use them, when to use them, how often, how much. Uh, they have a bunch of different names, right? Worm castings, vermicompost, black gold. All of these are great names to have, but if you don't understand what it is that you're purchasing, then you'll never know how to use it. And one thing is that worm castings just aren't fertilizer. They're just not. It's a wrong assumption. The reason that doesn't work is because people think soil problems are nutrient problems. And when they think about that, they usually go for nutrient problems. And they think that worm castings will fix their nutrient problem. And in all actuality, it will not feed the plant the way you think it's going to feed the plant. Most of the time, what you're doing is you're adding more biology. And that is where you go wrong. Worm castings, when you add them in such large quantities, which is usually just more than 20%, you start running into issues. And some of those issues are things like growth inhibitors, which will actually stunt the growth of your plant. Yep, you heard me right. If you use too much fertilizer, worm castings, you will stunt the growth of your plant. Now, how is that possible if a fertilizer is supposed to feed your plant and give you all these nutrients? Funny thing is, there are no nutrients in worm castings. Ding ding ding. There are some, but not as much as some of the other things that you can purchase off the shelf, like compost or just other liquid amendments. They're different. This is why I don't think worm castings should be classified as a fertilizer. What they really should be classified as more of a biological amendment. At the Las Vegas Worm Farm, we do everything. Everything goes back to the basic frameworks, which is air, water, food, and microbes. Right? We talk about this in the Living Soul community as well. Worm castings don't replace that food portion of it. And that food portion of it is what most people think you're feeding your plants, and it's not. It's the microbe portion. It's the biology. That's what you're getting when you purchase worm castings. We talk about this a lot in the community. I've also done a bunch of talks here locally in Las Vegas regarding worm castings and what you're actually buying when you purchase those. It's the biology that you're buying. And this biology is what in turn creates nutrients for your plants. So that's where a lot of people go wrong. They think they're grabbing fertilizer off the shelf that they can just feed through their plants and the plants will just grow. It's just, it just doesn't work that way. I think that is probably the biggest myth that's out there, that worm castings are this miraculous, high nutrient dense thing that you can just feed to plants and just get them to explode and do the crazy things that you want them to do. In all actuality, you're not. You're giving them a lot of microbiology, a lot of soil biology, a lot of microbes, a lot of microorganisms. You know, bacteria, protozoas, nematodes, fungi, right? Like all of that, even mites, right? Springtails, those are also in worm castings. That's what you're bringing to the table. These are the things that are going to unlock nutrients for your plants. But here's the kicker, right? If you add the worm castings in there and you don't have anything the worm castings to feed on, then they're going to die. Microbes are going to die, and then you're going to end up with dirt. And this is one of those reasons why when we look at worm castings, we want to buy something that's local, that's moist, that hasn't been on the shelf for a very long time, because we're getting those microbes, and that's what we really, really want in our soil. Biggest myth is that they're high in nutrients, and they're not. They're high in microorganisms. That is true, right? There's more microorganisms in worm castings than there are in compost. The majority. There is some really good compost out there that might compete very well with some worm castings, but in general, worm castings have more biology in it than compost will. I like to think of worm castings kind of like a probiotic, right? They don't they don't necessarily feed you, but they help digest food, right? So that's what probiotics do for us in our bodies, right? Yogurt, all those things, right? With cultures in it, they help us absorb nutrients to break down food and digest them, right? And get things out of it. In the soil, worm castings do the exact same thing. Those microorganisms break down food slowly over a period of time and release nutrients to your plants over a long period of time. And the crazy thing about this is that if you keep that system alive and you keep it fed, right, and you give it all those four principles air, water, food, and microbes, your plants will grow indefinitely as long as they're perennials, right, or things that'll grow year after year after year. If it's an annual, it's going to die. There's nothing we can do about that, right? But that those worm castings that you added to the soil, they will continue to live and thrive and do their thing. And you can sit back and just watch your plants grow. If you do nothing else this week, think about this. There's different ways to grow plants. If you want to feed the plant, you can do that. We've been doing that for hundreds of years. Miracle growers out there, that's what they do, right? It is a food for the plant. There's other ways to grow. If you want to grow organically and you want to grow or mimic more of what Mother Nature does, then maybe check out some worm castings. And if you can get your hand on something locally produced, or if you make your own, even better. Remember, worm castings aren't fertilizer. They're not fertilizing your plant. They're not feeding your plant. They're microorganisms. That's what you're buying when you buy those. So you could technically call them more of a microbial inoculant, a bug in a bag or a bug in a jug. I guess you could. Yeah. That is what black gold actually is. That is worm castings when you're purchasing it. So if your soil feels dead, it might need life. If you want to know more about this, you can join the Living Soil community or you can join the Las Vegas Worm Farm. We talk about all this stuff there and help you grow organically and naturally, mimicking what Mother Nature does naturally in your backyard. So you can grow more, easier, so you don't have to manage as much. I'm a lazy gardener. I really am. You can do it. If I can do it in Las Vegas in the desert where we're on water restrictions and everything else, you can do it wherever you're at. All right, that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.